Yo, the Alchemist of the Black Forest, Alan Bishop, back again with another One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute video. It's a Sunday afternoon. I finished up the very first of my paranormal, supernatural, cryptid podcast, available now on Anchor and Spotify. If you have ghosts, you have everything. Getting over a little bit of a sinus thing. My voice is a little froggy, but I want to knock out a bunch of these One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute videos all in one go, so that's what I'm doing now. A little self-medicating in order to cure my voice issue. This right here is some malted roasted sunflower liquor. I won't tell you all the other ingredients that are in this right now, other than it's been aged on, well, not properly aged. It has been finished on some Brazilian oak, some Amburana wood for a couple weeks, and it's pretty damn good. At 100 proof, which is where I like my sugar shines pretty well. All right, so a good friend of mine, I don't think I ever answered this question. He left this comment about a month ago on my YouTube channel. Ron Rupert, fantastic home distiller himself, great absinthe maker. Taught me a lot about absinthe, as a matter of fact. He says, still loving these videos. Could you talk about the challenges of scaling up small experimental batches to full production capacity? Thank you. And yes, I can, because these are great questions, because most home distillers don't start off very, very big, right? I mean, I have to presume that many of you watching this either built your own still or you bought a very small still with the preponderance of Chinese Beaver stills out there via Walmart.com, HomeDepot.com, Amazon.com, etc. You may be playing around with something pretty small. It might be 5 gallons, might be 10 gallons, maybe 15, 20 on the high end a lot of times. But if you're just starting out or you're playing around with different spirits other than sugar shines, etc., this might be an interesting and good video for you to give you some information about scaling up, particularly if you're going to scale up either at home from, let's say, a 10 gallon up to like a 50 gallon, or if you're going to scale up professionally from a prototype distillation for a botanical spirit in particular, say 1 gallon, all the way up to 350 gallons, which I've done, or from 1 gallon all the way up to 750 gallons, which I've also done, which is entirely a scary, different ordeal altogether. So typically, let's talk about with your grain distillations and your brandy distillations. A lot of times they do translate fairly well between what you've done on the very small side and what you do on the very large side. The only thing that's different is being sure of your cuts, right? It's very hard to make good, clean cuts on a small still. In my opinion, from a double pot still distillation or a pot with a thumper, anything smaller than 10 gallons for running from mash in that sort of situation, it's very hard to find the proper and appropriate cuts because everything is so compact. It's very hard to separate out those different compounds you may or may not want to keep, as it were. When you scale up, and then this happened to me big time when I got into Copper and Kings as a legal distiller there, you know, going from being at home, the biggest I'd ever run was 150 gallon, and then jumping to the larger of the two stills there was 1,000 gallon. Doing those double pot still runs, you know, figuring out where your head's cut at. I can do sensory analysis, and I can find those heads cuts, right? But when you're also considering the amount of money that goes into the raw material, you start to get a little nervous, right? Because there's a big difference between a heads cut that might be a couple gallons and a heads cut that might be more like 20 or 25 gallons, right? But that's just self-doubt is all that is. It still scales pretty evenly across, right? Whether it's brandy or grain scaling up. Now, the big difference comes from scaling up botanical spirits, and we've done some videos recently about botanical spirits because that's a huge passion of mine and something I'd like to see other people get into a little more heavily. The art of distillation from the earliest days was heavily reliant on plant medicine, the extraction of essential oils from plants, the flavoring of alcoholic spirits with these different constituents of plants for both medicinal and pleasurable use, right? So I would love to see more distillers go down this path. Now, these distillations get a little bit more tricky. So you set out and you've got, let's say that you've already got your base alcohol. It's finished. Whatever your base recipe was, it's finished. Double pot distilled or pot thumped, whatever, setting at 170 proof. It's already cut, no heads, no tails to worry about, none of that stuff, right? You understand the theoretical basics of how a botanical spirit is manufactured. You figure out what your botanicals are, right? And from there you have to figure out what the proportions of those botanicals are, and I do have a video coming up on that here shortly. figure out your proportions, you do your digestion and maceration method, or you figure out what you're putting in the vapor path, etc. You run it off of a 1 gallon prototyping still, for example, and it's beautiful and you love it. And you go, fuck yeah, I hit that. I hit that as hard as I could hit it. This is what I want to release. This is me. This is my unique artistic expression. It's all well and good, right? Now you got to scale it up. And what's the difference between that and grain or brandy? Well, the difference is that some of those botanicals are very, very intense, and they don't scale at all. So think of the scale up from the 1 gallon to, say, let's just say a 350 gallon, or let's just say for home distillers a 50 gallon, from 1 gallon to a 50 gallon. The scale up might take you 4 or 5 tries to get it right, and I'm going to try to save you some time here with one of the things that really screwed me up bad when I first started doing these. And you got to think of these scale up distillations as, all right, so you've got a bullseye on the side of the barn, right? And it's for throwing darts, okay? And the middle red part of that bullseye is your 1 gallon prototype, and we want to hit that. And the first time you run, you're not even on the fucking board. And why aren't you on the board? Well, because maybe you use black pepper, or you use grains of paradise, or you use cayenne, and you tried to scale whatever it was it used in 1 gallon, which might have been a half a gram weight to go into that 1 gallon. You tried to scale that up to go to a 50 gallon. Well, now it's undrinkable because it ain't nothing but straight black pepper or straight grains of paradise or straight cayenne, because those small, very spicy components do not scale correctly. They never have, they never will. Whenever you get ready to scale that up, whatever your number is of those small components, grains of paradise, black pepper, cayenne, anything spicy in that nature, cut them back by 3/4 and try that. It's still probably going to be too much. Probably going to have to cut it back another quarter at least, if not a little bit more, because it won't scale correctly. I have wasted a lot of research and development time and dollars doing this over the years, and I have fucked up some really expensive alcohol doing this. So trust me when I say this. This is probably the biggest key to large-scale botanical distillations that I will ever give anybody. Do not count on your botanical distillation at 1 gallon with all botanicals, each and every botanical being able to scale up. Now, a lot of botanicals will scale up. Things like roots, they tend to scale very well. Bark tends to scale well. Cinnamon can be questionable, but most barks tend to scale well. Floral elements tend to scale well. Anything of that nature. It's really those small, very spicy components that do not scale correctly. And that is the biggest pain in the ass out there when you get ready to scale up. So if you ever get ready to go legal and you've got a botanical spirit, bear that in mind. And go from a 1 gallon up to a 10 gallon. See what it does at 10 gallons. That's going to give you some idea, right? And maybe go from the 10 gallon up to a 50 gallon, right? If you hit it at 50 gallons, you could probably scale up above that. But that's my advice to you guys. So I hope that answered your question, Ron. I hope you're doing well too, brother. As always, if you guys have questions, reach out to me. I've already given you all that information. bishopshomegrown@gmail.com, social media, and also YouTube comments. And beautiful day. Get outside, enjoy your day, love your life, love your family, do something fun, adventurous, be productive when you can. Love you guys, and I'll catch you later.